All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Cloudy County in not 2025, but here we are in 2026. We survived another full rotation around the sun. So that's pretty cool. Excited for that. My name is Dewayne, Cloud Solution Architect with Microsoft, and that's Joe in a jacket. Is it cold there in Gainesville, or at least in Building 120?
It is starting to get that way here. I think we're in for some 20-degree weather in a day or two. Cloudy,
Yeah.
rainy. Um, so looking to actually have finally maybe a little bit of winter.
Oh yeah. So Joe, for my other Floridians here, Joe missed the first winter that we had because he was upside down in Australia. But we already had some weather that got pretty chilly. I think it hit 28 where I'm at. So for a Florida man, that's painful. But yeah, I saw Friday it's supposed to get pretty chilly. Anyway, enough about Florida specific weather. Welcome to to Cloudy County, where we don't just talk about the weather. We also talk about Microsoft 365, Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Copilot, like basically all the cool toys that live in the Microsoft ecosystem that you have in your toolbox. That is one thing that Joe and I try to be very consistent about. We try to teach you as much as we possibly can about tools that you already have access to. So very important. Occasionally, with a lot of warning, we'll let you know, like, hey, we need to tell you that this other thing exists in case your university is buying it or wants to buy it or whatever. But we always try to teach you about tools that you already have. And not only that, the both of us have worked in the land grant community for a very long time. Joe's at land grant university on campus right now. I worked with him for about 10 years at UF, and we try to approach this through the lens of how would this impact an extension agent or someone working at a land grant university. So we want you all to feel as special as you are because you're outstanding in your field.
Um,
Sorry, it's the only land grant joke I know. um, anyway, this is going to be a session about what's new and what's near. I like that title, Joe. There are a lot of things coming in 2026, and normally, for those of you who might be new to the community call, the way it normally goes is we do a what's new segment. So Joe does a great job of like scouring the entire internet and grabbing all of the new changes. And then we do a feature highlight where we talk about like, hey, let's dive into Microsoft Forms or Microsoft Bookings or something specific. But since this is the first session of the year and there's some pretty major changes coming, this whole thing's just going to be what's new because we want you to be prepared. There are some massive changes coming to Copilot that you got to be ready for, and they're good changes. They're very good changes, so I'm excited. But Joe, if you got some what's up and some what's new, I think we should go ahead and kick that off.
yeah, definitely. Um, I think often at the end, near the end of the year, we have a big Microsoft Ignite conference, and there's a lot of things that get released at that time. And there's a lot of things that they talk about at that time that are coming soon, usually within the next 3 to 6 months. So that's why a lot of things I think start to hit here just before the end of the year. I think there's probably a bunch of product groups at Microsoft that say we want to get this out before the end of the year. Um, and there is going to be things that are hitting from things that were mentioned, like at Ignite and some things like that. So um, move this out of the way. Um, we're going to get started here on something that hopefully you're starting to see. I've talked about this here with some other folks a little bit, and they've started to see this rolling out. Curious, any of you are seeing this right now? But in Teams, we're getting a little bit of change related to files and the files tab in a channel. Getting a rename, but not just a rename. There's some new capabilities that I think are pretty handy. So let's just show what those are going to look like. This is, yeah, this was supposed to be rolled out already, but they did do a little updated timeline kind of over the holiday break. So it probably got delayed a little bit, finished by late January. And again, started to see this in some of the tenants. And it's been different for individuals. So it might just be starting to roll out in your area. Typically, we're in a channel, general channel. Files is gone. It's now shared. So that next one in row there of those tabs is now called shared. So it mostly looks pretty much the same that we've had for a while. We've got these two options here to see what's in this site library, what's in the channels in here. But what's new that we're also getting some capabilities is this top little buttons at the top in library. So that's shared content files that are in the library, and also things that have been maybe put into messages in that channel. So if you've moved and use a channel for a lot of conversations, this might be a quick way to go in there and find information without going deep into the library, trying to figure out where somebody might have shared something with you in a chat, in a channel. Quick way to go find that now. So it's going to separate it out for recent things that are recent. I don't think I have any files that I've shared in here, unfortunately, as an example, but this would list just the files that someone's put into a chat in this channel or links. And so that should surface things that are recent quicker to find that information instead of hunting around in a library, or maybe, again, if you've got a nice, useful channel with a lot of chatting going on, quick way to find some files that are in there. Take advantage of that. Looks like Greg's got share channels working on your system. Great. Yeah. It hopefully there it says by the end of this month, late. So sometimes they give us stuff and sometimes they take things away. So SharePoint alerts, if curious anybody has taken advantage of these. This is something I've often talked about when you are an owner of a team. And you might want to know when a bunch of stuff gets deleted. So often I've seen maybe a weird sync issue happens, or someone is transitioning from the older sync method to the shortcut in OneDrive and kind of moving into that more modern way to work with files on your computer. Sometimes like a channel or a large quantity of files get deleted at one time. I've usually set up an alert in SharePoint to get a notification if something like that happens. Those are SharePoint alerts. They've usually been very easy to do. They've been around forever. Those are retiring, and we're going to have to come up with some other way to do that. So let's look at what those look like first, so you can kind of refresh your mind. And yep, it's going to break some things. So what those look like, where those are at, so you can kind of go check on them if you have any. So I've opened up a SharePoint site that's part of from a team. I'm looking at the standard document library in there. And we're going to find under our little 3-dot menu for this document library, there's going to be alerts, manage my alerts. Now we're going to start getting this notification. If you have alerts, what I've seen too configured, that you're going to get some emails saying that and notifying you that you're using it, and that's going to change. We're going to start seeing this information here. And we'll go back to the notification here. So they're going to start, you won't be able to create new ones, and eventually they're going to just stop working. So this is what they look like. I've got a daily email in this library that was set up for when items are deleted, someone else other than myself give me a daily summary of everything that gets deleted. Since you got 93 days in your document libraries to go back and look at stuff, a weekly summary, sometimes I would just do weekly summary. If you got a really busy one and a lot of real business processes are deleting files, you might not want to do it every single day, which was a nice feature. So that is how these things used to work. So what can we do now? What are some suggestions? So anyways, here's some timeline that we want to call out. So creation of new alerts are gradually going to be turned off starting this month. So to be able to create new ones. And July, if things continue this way, we're going to be removing those and can't work with them anymore. So I'll put this into chat, give you an idea. You can take a look at this, share that internally if you need to. What are they offering? What can you do in some of these? They're sending you to Power Automate. So Power Automate is a workflow engine inside of your services that you have available. Very likely you have this available to you. They have some options here, some templates to help you walk through and kind of recreate those. If you want something quick to maybe mimic something fairly similar, is we can take advantage of rules. So I'm back in this same document library, and we've got some automation capability that's surfaced directly, very easy to take advantage of now. So I'm, again, under this 3 dots, might have to search for it under here. We've got automate, we got rules. So I can create a rule and get pretty close to this. This is making it very easy to look for changes in a document library or lists, and do something when something happens. Somebody changes maybe a status column that you have set up. Something new comes in, and you can say, I've begun working on this, and then you can set a status to completed. You can kick off some real easy workflow with this without having to use this tool called Power Automate, which is definitely more powerful. But one of them in here is just file is deleted. So what do these rules look like? Pretty straightforward on this one. When a file is deleted, send an email to where? So I can just pick me. And I do recommend putting some type of custom message in here. If you don't, you're just going to get something that says something was deleted, is what I've been seeing. So I have an example here. So this would be an example of the email that you get. You will be a link to go to that file, but you got to go open it. What is it that changed? You can see here where I have right in the middle, SharePoint rule dash deleted from this team. That's what I put into, where were we? That's what I put into this custom message. I think it's probably helpful to definitely put something in there. And maybe some unique word, like I put SharePoint rule, all one word, that maybe if I want to create a rule in Outlook, I could search for that in the body of the message and kind of move these into a certain folder or flag them or something like that if I wanted to. So just a recommendation there. And again, in this document from Microsoft, they go through some other ways to do this, more granular. You could work on looking for these kind of changes inside of that document I dropped in for you. And if you want a little bit more on rules, let's drop that into chat too. And kind of how to walk through just doing those rules. See any other further questions on that? But usually as an owner, again, it's gotten better. I haven't worried about that too much lately. Most people now are using this new method of adding shortcuts to OneDrive, but for a while, early days of Teams, things like entire channels, folders would get deleted sometimes with sync issues. This was a great way to kind of catch that before you lose those files. Take a look at them.
These rules probably look familiar if you've messed with rules for Microsoft lists, right, Joe? It's
Yeah,
all a list.
yeah.
Everything's a list. And so that's why it looks the same because it's the same.
That's yeah. Anybody's any other comments on those? Yeah, Kevin, you're saying no, this is going to break some things. Be interesting, maybe next month, see a couple of months how you've decided to change those around. Have you tried to move them to a rule, or have you gone to Power Automate? Um, Definitely might have to do that on some of those rules, a little more intricate. Let's see here. Next one. Um, does it affect alerts for those that want access to the site? No, those should be access requests. That should not affect those kind of alerts. But actually, that reminds me one thing, especially we're talking permissions there, sort of, is these rules when they get created. I'm going to create this. Um, this rule lives in the document library, and everybody who's basically a member of this site is going to be able to see these rules and manage them and create them and update and edit them. Um,
So they're
so
not
just
per
something to,
user.
yeah, this not per user. Yeah, this will be, so everybody who's a member of this, like this is a team, they're all going to be able to do this. They could go create their own. There's up to 15 rules. Again, this is a simple way to do some workflow quickly, easily around some of the metadata and things like that in a list. Um, but you can only do 15 of these. And again, other people can see them, maybe edit them, etc. Where if you were to use Power Automate, that is going to be something dedicated just for yourself, your account. Just something to think about there. One more thing to deal with. I think there was definitely some pushback on alerts because they're just so easy and helpful. Um, but I'm sure that was probably some very old architecture inside of SharePoint. And I think this will maybe give y'all a chance to start trying a little bit of Power Automate if you haven't, or at least take advantage of these rules. Being able to get notified again, like a status column in a list or something like that, is really, really helpful. So those rules can be something to dive into. Next thing we'll talk about, let's see, is starting to see this rolled out. Collaborative notes in chats. So a while ago, we got the ability to add basically a loop tab into a channel. We're getting that same similar feature now alongside inside of chats. So what does that look like? How do we take advantage of something like that? So I'm in a chat. This could be a group chat. You're going to start seeing an icon in the upper right for this chat with Jean-Luc Picard. Got a little icon, which is open notes. And the first time you click that, it's going to just take a little second as it starts to generate this, what essentially is a active loop page for taking notes. That's going to stay connected to and part of this chat. I populated this with a little heading up here. I added a loop component for a task list, populated it with a few tasks. So everybody on this chat would click this open notes, and they're going to see the same exact set of options here related to this loop component. You ever have a chatty group chat? People are throwing out some work to do, things to remember. Now you can just put that right alongside that chat. And again, take full advantage of loop. I just do a forward slash, and I can see all these components that I could start adding into this. Call outs, bulleted lists, table dividers, contents, collapsible headings. Again, some of these really cool ones, voting tables, a little calendar. Again, I added a task list. So really cool to just have those right alongside of your chats now. Don't have to go hunt those down. Loop is designed for fast, quick collaboration. And we know you do a lot of work in chats. Now you can get a little bit more done right inside of Teams like that.
I like that you don't have to take your eyeballs off of the chat. It's been very helpful for me and with a lot of chats that I'm in. I'm in about, I don't know, 1 or 2 million group chats, and trying to figure out what's going on in each one, and they're not all named. It's really nice to be able to do that and collaborate with those folks, but not actually have to pivot over to another window, like go over to like Loop in my browser or the Loop app, for instance.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
if you tabbed in a Loop, sometimes it would kick you over to your browser to open that. And so you're in a whole new app now. So this is nice.
Is anybody showing that they are seeing that right now? Just curious in the chat if anybody wants to give a little thumbs up there or something like that. See if that started to roll out for y'all.
Got a thumb.
All right.
Nice.
Oh. Some things, what's new? This was December for what's new in Teams. Drop this into chat too. You can look at some of these a little later if you want. But a couple things I just wanted to call out here. One that's going to be really handy, especially maybe if you've got multiple monitors, not uncommon, but the ability to pop out some of these main apps, some of the main apps in Teams. If I bring Teams back over, I think one of them that is pretty special to be able to do this now is along our rail here on the left with our apps, chat and calendar, calls, is we can right click on one of these, like especially calendar, kind of nice, is I've got open a new window. So I can pop that out. That just popped out into another monitor I have, but you can see here now, I have the ability to pop out my calendar in Teams and have that visible wherever I go all the time. So maybe I want to just, I have a monitor that's in portrait mode, and I could put Teams at the top. I could put the Teams calendar kind of at the bottom of that portrait mode, have my calendar always keep me up to date, what's coming up next, jump back and forth in Teams and still kind of pay attention and see what my calendar looks like. So I think that's pretty slick to be able to do that and take advantage of that. You can pop out if you're using Teams for calls. You can pop that out. Pop out your activity. Again, these are all not kind of available to do that. Planner, open up a new window from there. You can always get Planner several other different ways. But great. So a few of you haven't seen that notes option just yet. And good call out there, Dewayne. I'll put onto the call. That is for internal chats that don't yet have someone that's external in that chat. So. And the other thing to talk about here is a little bit bigger on here is talking about team codes, joining a private team with a join code. So every team has the ability to go generate a code that you could give to somebody internally at your institution. That if they have that code, they could go into Teams and go to where you're going to like create a team, and there's an option to join a team with a join code. That would automatically get you into a private team previously. Might still do it for you right now. Not sure where this is fully rolled out just yet. But now that is simply going to still use that join code, still take advantage of it. post that, in a flyer or something like that. If you've got a community team at your institution, but now that's going to generate an approval. So it's not going to be automatic, not going to automatically join your team. But as an owner, you're going to just have to go in, pop in, and approve them. There's also been the ability to generate a link to a team, and you could always send that out, and that would generate an approval to get into that private team. So those now are going to just going to one little extra step, little bit of extra security. If you've generated a join code for a private team, and that join code maybe got out to people who you didn't want to have it, they would just be able to get into your private team. So this is just one extra security layer to help prevent that if that were to happen. If I look at a team here, I can manage this team. And under settings, I'm going to find where you have a join code. And that's something that you could pretty much hand out now. If it gets into the wrong hands, somebody's not going to accidentally automatically join your team. It's going to generate an approval under pending requests. And you could also see if I pull up the properties of this team, I could copy a link. That would also, I could post somewhere, send to somebody that'll generate an approval request. Again, those just for internal folks, not guests. It'll join that way. Oh. I think that was it inside of some what's new that I wanted to talk about. Feel free to look through there. There's some interesting new hardware coming out. Take advantage of some of this. I think there's some new cameras, some new AI, enhanced noise cancellation, things like that. If you like gadgets, definitely the space around Teams and Team Voice is always very active. You can take a look at that. So.
Yeah, that join code thing is just in the chat about the code being, can you change it? Yes, you can regenerate it or remove it. Joe and I had talked about, like, at the for the UF learning community team, we've had the same code for 6 or 7 years. So much so that it has been burned into my memory and I have it memorized still. And we used to use it as a way to just let people self-add. Hey, do you want to be a part of our cool kids club? Here's the secret code. And then they would add themselves. But that's not a sensitive team. There's not private data in there. There's no worries about like the wrong audience getting access to stuff. So we didn't care. But I think this code thing is better because that's probably the situation for the majority of teams. There's probably data in there that you don't necessarily want somebody with a code just being able to go get. So I like this change. I think membership of the team should be reviewed. You should have the right people in the team, because if you add them to the team, they have access to the stuff. And don't make public teams. Just got to say that. PSA, don't make public teams. There's almost no reason to make a public team, because if you make a public team, you're giving every single person at your entire university access to everything you put in that team automatically.
Yeah.
You probably don't want to do that. So don't make public teams.
Yeah, not something you want to do. It's too. I hope someday they'll make those changes so that it doesn't make sense that you might want to do public when you're creating that. There's some little bit of wording that is there that you kind of want to stay away from. So I'm just I'm going to create a quick team here. This one right here, that's the problem. So we find often too many public teams, anyone in your org can join. sounds great. Why wouldn't you want to? But they can join without you having to do anything and immediately have access to all the files,
Well, then
writable,
let's make it
editable,
worse.
deletable, all the files
They,
without joining the team. Searchable.
yeah, they don't even have to join your team to have access to everything that's in the team.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
whatever file you put in that team, if somebody goes to Microsoft Search and types in bacon and your top secret bacon recipe is in that team, it will come up.
Yeah.
And they,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a hot mess. So,
Yeah. We got a question there too about that. Is that Kathleen, a question about this public private?
Yeah, I was just wondering, I see a really great, like sometimes you want to invite somebody in to talk to your Teams meeting or something, and it'd be nice to just let them in for a one-time meeting and then lock them out. Because it'd be nice to, they could see your SharePoint, they could see what you're working on, and then get them out of there so it doesn't end up in like that Hegseth thing with
yeah,
that reporter that was left on. So that was my question was, can they make this a one-time code?
you can add a person to a team, but as soon as you add them, they have access to everything that's in the team. If it's just for a meeting, you can invite them to an instance of a meeting without them being a member of the team. If you're doing meetings inside of a team's channel, which is a little bit, I would consider that a more advanced meeting, I suppose. But they won't have access to the chat, but they could participate in the meeting without actually ever having access to the content of the team. If you add them to the team and they have access to the stuff that's in the team, you can remove them from the team after you're done with the session or working with them, and that would remove their access. But I would still, I don't know. That's kind of a scary. What do you think, Joe? Like,
Yeah. I mean, if it's internal and you have to just think about who are you bringing in, and is it something that you have some trust there with that, want to bring them in and move them out. But like Dwayne's saying is if you're running a channel meeting, you can just invite them, send them a link to that channel meeting, and they'll be able to join it. They just won't, that chat for a channel meeting is in the team. So they won't be in the team to be able to participate in the chat, but they can be on the call, listen in, see everything, that kind of stuff. So that might be enough. They could be a participant. They could share their screen, things like that. Just aren't going to see the chat. So you could just talk. If there's chat in there they need to know about, if you're asking them to come in, maybe as a guest presenter or something like that. Maybe you just you manage that chat for them as questions come through or something like that. I think. What about the Q&A, Dwayne? Maybe in that case, wonder if that would
the
work
Q&A
for
app?
somebody. The Q&A app.
Yeah, that would work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you might be able to get some questions to that person temporarily in that. So might be one way. Yep. Great. Yeah. So anyways, yeah, just that public. There's a fairly simple process to go through to just eliminate that. Make everything else work just fine in teams and creating groups, etc. But there's just a few steps that a M365 administrator could do to eliminate that public one so it doesn't visible there, and maybe set up a policy of requesting those when there could be a case you want one, but it should be rare.
Yeah. All right. Well, our entire presentation, like I said earlier, is what's new. And so we divided it into two pieces. So Joe showed you a lot of the things that are rolling out right now, and then we need to show you what's nearing. So now and near. So we're going to transition over. I think I have some slides I can use, Joe, for
Great.
that we will cover. So let me share my screen now. All righty.
Looks good.
So first up, if you didn't know, Microsoft Copilot uses models created by OpenAI that are known as GPTs. And when they released GPT-5, it became available in Copilot the same day. And they did it again with GPT 5.2. The day of release, it became available in Copilot as well. So big commitment there to model updates to make sure that users get their hands on these as quickly as they can because they can do some pretty powerful things. Um, Joe, I'm gonna pick on you again. You showed me something last week about asking GPT 5.2 to generate an Excel workbook. And you kind of did a side-by-side demo of like how sophisticated the workbook was that GPT 5.2 did. Do you have that
Yeah.
handy?
Um,
If you
not,
don't, it's not a big
yeah,
deal.
not
That's
terribly.
fine.
I put the prompt in the chat real quick. Just create a workforce planning model in Excel with headcount, hiring plan, attrition, budget, impact, and then include some departments: engineering, marketing, legal, sales departments. And I put that through, just straight through, hit auto, let it run, and then I forced the option over for 5.2 thinking. And there was, I think we were going, GPT 5 or 5.1 to 5.2. Um, and in this case, it could change every time. It's generative AI, but there was significant difference even when it was thinking in the auto mode right now, what is sort of the older model, um, with the capabilities and kind of what it presented to me. Um, and 5.2 was definitely deeper, more options. It gave me extensive formulas and things like that. I've tried it a couple times. Sometimes it even goes beyond what Excel formulas, I should say, the Python library sometimes has a problem right now um, that generates these Excel files. Excel handles those kind of errors and the file will open up and you might need to tweak a formula. You can actually go back to Copilot and say, hey, I got this error about this formula. Can you give me a more simple one? And I've had it continue to do that and update my file using the 5.2 method or library. So yeah, it's looking forward to that model someday. I think down the road as becoming our default too.
Yeah, 5.0 is the default now. So you don't have to think about turning that on. But you might have noticed there that I actually went and purposefully engaged 5.2. So that is done up here where it says auto under more 5.2. I can pick either quick response or think deeper. So I've got Beverly running that same workbook prompt that Joe showing. So yeah, this is kind of what Joe got.
Yeah.
As you can see, this particular workbook is just, values kind of spread in there, a few different tabs with, some stuff going on. No formulas though. These are just all static values that have been entered into it. Versus this one.
That's like a configuration page,
Yeah.
for settings that affect the entire workbook.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. We actually had a dashboard here that will eventually render out, you know, graph for you
Yep.
once you
Yep.
populate a lot of this. So
Yep.
definitely a more sophisticated output with 5.2 for sure. But yeah, try it from the auto menu 5.2. I have been using 5.2 Think Deeper consistently for the last week or so for pretty much everything I've been doing. And wow, it's cool. If you're willing to wait a couple minutes sometimes, it is pretty sweet. All right, coming up next, agent mode in Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. This is taking that. So what GPT-5 brought was what we call reasoning capabilities or logic. Like you might have noticed there real quick. Let me go over to Beverly again. You see it says reasoned for 55 seconds. So it says planning workforce dynamics, and it's telling me what it's actually thinking about doing. And in this step, it wrote Python code, and then it's validating that code. And I love this. I'm checking the sanity of the formulas. So it doesn't just generate stuff and go, like it generates stuff and then will a lot of times check it before it produces a result for you. So you can kind of see how that's like logic and reasoning. So that's the powerful thing about GPT-5 and 5.2 is that logic and reasoning. Agent mode in Office brings that reasoning capability directly into Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. And so previously, Copilot in Excel, when you asked it to make a change to your workbook, it was kind of a challenge to get it to do multiple steps all at one time. With reasoning capabilities in agent mode, now you can say, I want column J to do this. I want you to do that. I also want this to happen. And I want you to update this value. And it can reason over each of those things independently and then do those things all in parallel to the document. Doing it in Excel is a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. So I made up a spreadsheet. And I see in the chat, Excel junkie here. You might like this. I didn't make any of this. This is all fake. I actually asked agent mode to create all of this. I asked it to create fake students, fake courses, fake class IDs, fake student numbers, and fake grades. But I noticed that today, I don't know what broke, but all of a sudden, column J, it doesn't have the grade averages in there anymore. And so can you fix column J? It should have grade average percent, but the column is blank. So I'm not doing anything sophisticated, just using pretty natural language. And so I'm going to ask it to see if it can do that. Now, the cool thing about this is not just reading the data that's in the Excel workbook, which is like the default mode when you click the Copilot button. It can actually write changes to the workbook. So yeah, it says, let me see if I can do this. I appreciate it being transparent. Let me see. So I'm getting the reasoning there. And this is kind of in a, I don't want to call it early access, but it should be, I believe it's GA now. I can't remember, Joe. It should be, pretty sure it is. But this is it's going to explain itself, and it's going to eventually make some change. Oh yeah. Thank you, Joe. You know, it's perfect timing. Excel.
Yeah. I think you want to try it in the web to start for first. I think is where it has been rolling out first is web. Just
yeah, it did hit web, but in a couple of my labs, I've got it in the desktop. So
yeah,
boom. Did y'all see that? There's all my grade averages. Now here's the thing. Think about what just happened. Adeline is a single individual, right? It's one human with 5 classes. So it figured out who each human was, and then averaged their grades and then updated that. So I have the formula there created for that, which is, which is pretty sick. And when I was creating this and I'm talking about it, doing multiple steps at the same time, I did this like a basis of this document. And then I told it, I said, you know what, add 20 more students and use all the previous criteria that I gave you. And it added 150 new fake rows of data. And then I said, you know, take all the grade averages and figure out if there are any anomalies in these classes. Are there any classes that we should be focusing on that there might be a problem? Because we have some students that are performing very well everywhere else, but maybe not in one particular class. Like, is there a situation where maybe the instruction isn't clear or there's something out of whack with the grading? I don't know. But it found out of the synthetic data that it made up, it identified 2 classes that should have a review. So literary analysis and the psychology of learning. It's wild. Agent mode is so much fun.
And for the Excel junkies there, just look at that formula. Those I'm like learning new ways of even doing things in Excel with dynamic arrays and named named classes, all these things that those things are doing. Like I never have used that before. Let me learn something new.
It's magic. It makes me look like I know what I'm doing in Excel, which I'm super stoked about because I've never been an Excel wizard. Now there's something on my screen here, however, that's a little interesting. It says in Excel, choose OpenAI or Anthropic models. So while GPT 5.2 and 5 and everything else that says GPT on it has been created by OpenAI, we are now going to have the ability to pivot back and forth between different models. So I can choose Anthropic models now because those are included in Microsoft's ecosystem of AI and are governed or protected, we'll say, by the same enterprise data protection guarantees that have applied to all the OpenAI models. And so this means you now have an option. You have choices that you can make, which I think is pretty sweet. So you'll see this pop up in a couple other places as we progress through this here. We also have Word, Excel, and PowerPoint agents. So not to be confused with agent mode. Agent mode is something that you'll use in the applications themselves directly. So you saw me go into chat, go to the tools menu and turn on agent mode. And I'm in the file working with it. The Office agents are dedicated agents that you will chat with, have a back and forth conversation, and the result will be it will create that kind of file for you. So you'll see here in the screenshot, I have asked it to create a PowerPoint presentation about bacon. Because why not? Because every demo I do is either Star Trek, bourbon, or bacon. So that's, I stick to what I know. So this is pretty cool. I can show you kind of an early access view of this. So I have a frontier menu here and I have my PowerPoint agent. I can actually pull up that conversation that I was having with the PowerPoint agent about building that presentation so you can see it because it was a lot of fun. So you see my screen kind of split. I can talk to it over on the left and I can see what it creates over on the right. So this is a really nice kind of like back and forth presentation. So again, some reasoning happening here. It's going through all of these steps and deciding how to create my presentation. It knocked out 9 slides and dropped a file in my OneDrive for me. Now that I'm still talking with it, I noticed that it actually missed one of the things that I wanted it to do. I said, hey, I asked for you to go to this website and grab the branding information from this university's public branding page and apply that brand as a theme to the PowerPoint presentation. And so I told it again to do that. So it went out to their website and it grabbed USF green and USF gold and created some accent colors. And now I have a presentation all about why bacon smells good when you are cooking it in your kitchen, and it's all on brand. So that's pretty neat. Now this uses Anthropic's models. So the Office agents are pretty much exclusively Anthropic models right now, which is important to know because you should know. But it's pretty neat. I've actually used it a couple times this week to generate content in PowerPoint. There's an agent for Excel and there's an agent for Word as well. So if you wanted to generate a report, that would be a great way to kick off that process of creating something from scratch or creating something brand new from an idea or creating something from another file that you have as a reference. So in this case of the bacon report, I had a Word document that I pointed at. And I said, based on that Word document, build me a PowerPoint presentation about why bacon smells great.
Dewayne, where do you think this is going to help at all with Copilot chat agents that we can create? Any better availability to create files there in those?
Well, for Anthropic's models, you can select Anthropic models, but only over in Copilot Studio.
Okay.
In the simple agent builder, that one uses GPT-5, and it does have the ability to do kind of like what we demoed with GPT 5.2. It can still create those file types, but it will use the GPT model to do that. Speaking of Anthropic, this is a slide kind of for my admins, but really for everybody who wants to know. As of January 7th, so a few days ago, Anthropic came online in the Microsoft system as what we call a sub-processor, which means that they are underneath the umbrella of the agreement that you sign with Microsoft to protect your data. So that's how we're going to start making all of those things available. So you're going to see, if you have a Copilot license, you're going to see in Researcher the ability to try Claude as a model. So it'll say up here, try Claude. You'll see how I showed you over in Excel, agent mode in Excel, the ability to cycle between agents. You're going to see those PowerPoint, Word, and Excel agents. And like I said, Copilot Studio agents, if you're building there, you can choose those Anthropic models. So the big news here is there's more models to choose from, and that means that Copilot is, and always has been, not a model. Like, you're not talking to a model, you are talking to a platform or an ecosystem, and there are a multitude of models inside of it based on for different purposes. So you want to choose the right model for the right job. This is a great way to make that happen. And the biggest news that we're going to leave you with for the beginning of 2026 is everything that I just showed you is coming to all Copilot chat users. That means all the users who already have Copilot chat without any kind of extra add-on licensing are going to get these things. That is huge. Now, in addition to that, that first bullet point that's on the screen, I didn't want to gloss over, says Copilot chat in Outlook will soon be able to understand your entire mailbox and all your calendar and your meetings. And it says extending beyond individual emails. So we've done demos in previous sessions where we've shown you that you can click on an email and you can ask Copilot to summarize it. You can click on an email and you can ask Copilot questions about it. Now you can ask Copilot, hey, can you summarize my email from today? Can you help me? Are there any follow-ups that I missed? Can you look at my calendar for tomorrow and give me a table of all of my meetings and any kind of things that I might need to know to prep for those? Those are the kinds of things that you'll soon be able to start asking Copilot in Outlook, with access to your files as well. So like your OneDrive and SharePoint sites that you visit, those kinds of things. So every single one of you is going to get very, very powerful capabilities for Copilot in Outlook. As soon as this launches and becomes available, I guarantee you, Joe and I are going to jump all over it. So we're going to come back to this once we have something to actually show you how to use it. But the cool stuff in Excel, the cool agent mode in PowerPoint, or the cool PowerPoint agent rather, yeah, you're all going to get this pretty soon. So the rollout window for this, it says, is between January and March. So the bottom left, it says Q1 of 2026. So starting soon, but starting soon, maybe finishing not so soon. We'll see how the rollout goes. But Joe and I are super stoked to show this off.
It's really, I mean, that's significant value productivity to just a standard academic license. To think about that, that's really significant, especially when you combine it with the enterprise data protection on top of it. That's pretty special. And Microsoft dropped the price of the paid version of Copilot. That brings those advanced features, different advanced agents and things like that for education We should be seeing that around like $18 a month now.
Yeah.
Also, so if you want to get even deeper into Copilot capabilities, Microsoft has made that much more affordable than $30 a month.
Yeah, yeah. EDU special pricing was a great move, and then now this is a great move, and this always inevitably brings up the question of like, well, what's the difference between this and paid? So I'll drop something in the chat for all of you. I don't want to put it on the YouTube video because I don't know yet if I'm allowed, but I'll throw something in the chat. You don't go put it on YouTube. That kind of shows some of the differences between the two things. I can't remember. I got to grab it. But yeah, you won't have access to like researcher and analyst. You won't be able to build agents that are grounded in M365 data sources. You'll still have standard access for image generation and access to GPT 5.2. So yeah, there's still a lot of things that $18 a month license gets you. And remember what I just said is you'll be able to access Copilot in Outlook to do those things. So the Copilot app, Copilot in Word, Copilot in Excel, they're still going to function the same way, but asking about your entire mailbox is only going to work in Outlook. So kind of a screen real estate thing to consider there, and where it becomes available. So
a question kind of on that right now is with respect to that access into Outlook, will you be able to do something like pull all your newsletters and non-essential mail to like different folders? I think it would be, that's kind of diving into what you might end up calling an agent, which that's not what we're talking here. We're just talking.
Correct. Yeah. This is like retrieval of data. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Retrieval of data, not reconfiguring Outlook. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Good question. Well, we're going to turn off the recording, but we'll stay on the call for a little while longer. If y'all have questions, sometimes news like this prompts questions. So if you want to hang out for a little bit, throw a question in the chat or come off mute and ask it. We'd be more than happy to do that. But if you are watching the recording there on YouTube, thanks. We appreciate you hanging out with us and watching. So
In February.
we'll see you next month.
Yeah. There was